Hello there. I want to share something really important with you that you might not know. Every 40 seconds, someone in the US has a stroke, and every 3.5 minutes, someone dies from one. But here's something most people don't realize. Up to 80% of strokes can be prevented, and not through expensive treatments, but by simply changing a few everyday habits. Imagine this. I have a friend named Ronald, 74 years old. Just a year ago, he was full of life. He loved gardening, played chess on Sundays, and insisted on carrying his own groceries. But one morning, while tying his shoes, he suddenly fell to the side. His wife thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He had suffered an ischemic stroke. The doctors said it was due to a combination of high blood pressure, poor hydration, and years of inactivity. Ronald didn't smoke, he didn't drink, but he sat for long hours, rarely drank enough water, and thought sleeping 5 hours was enough. This is something many of us can relate to. These seemingly harmless habits were slowly damaging his blood vessels, making them stiff and narrow over time. And when a blood clot formed, it couldn't pass through. That's all it took. According to Harvard Health, even sleeping less than 6 hours a night can increase your stroke risk by up to 80%. So why is stroke so dangerous? A stroke happens when blood can't get to your brain. Think of your brain like a garden and your blood vessels like hoses that keep it watered. Now imagine one of those hoses gets pinched or bursts. The water stops flowing and the garden starts to wither. That's exactly what a stroke does. It cuts off the oxygen and nutrients your brain needs to stay alive. Now that we understand just how dangerous stroke can be and how small lifestyle changes can make a big difference, let's dive into the first habit you may not realize is putting you at risk: sitting too much. 1. Sitting too much during the day. Let me ask you something simple. How many hours a day do you spend sitting? 1 hour? 3? For many seniors, that number can quietly creep up to 8 hours or more without even realizing it. Why does this matter? I remember a dear friend of mine named Margaret, 76 years old. She was sweet, soft-spoken, and proud of living independently. When I visited her last year, I noticed something. From breakfast to watching her afternoon TV programs to sitting at the table doing crossword puzzles, Margaret barely stood up. When I asked, she just laughed and said, "I'm just trying to rest these old bones." But resting for hours and hours can turn into quiet harm. A recent study by the American Heart Association found that seniors who sit more than 8 hours a day have up to 4 times the risk of stroke. Why? Because sitting still slows down blood flow, and your legs stop pumping blood upward. Blood starts to pool, especially around the calves. Over time, that slow-moving blood can form clots. If one of those clots travels to your brain, you already know the answer: a stroke. The most common type of stroke is ischemic stroke, which accounts for nearly 87% of all cases. And here's the part that catches most people off guard. It happens without warning. No pain, no racing heartbeat, just silence until your legs give out or your words stop working. That's exactly what happened to Margaret. One morning, she stood up from the couch and collapsed. A mini stroke. It didn't take her life, but it took her confidence, her balance, and her ability to walk without help. All from sitting too long, too often. What you can do instead. The solution isn't running laps. It's gentle, regular movement. Every 30 to 60 minutes, simply stand up, walk to the kitchen, stretch your arms, or march in place during commercials. According to Harvard Health, doing just that can reduce your risk of stroke by 30% or more. If you need help remembering, set a timer or place a sticky note on the TV stand. Because after 60, stillness might feel safe, but it can quietly steal your strength. Your independence is worth protecting, and it starts with simply standing up. 2. Eating too much salt without realizing it. It's not the salt shaker on your table that worries me. It's the salt that's already hiding in your food. I remember a man named Bill, 68 years old. He was tall, gentle, and swore up and down, "I never use salt." He'd been good about that for years. But when we looked at what he ate daily, canned soup, deli turkey, cheese, frozen dinners, his sodium intake was over 3,500 milligrams a day. That's more than double the recommended amount for seniors. The CDC reports that 77% of the salt we consume comes from processed and packaged foods, not from the salt we add at the table. And too much sodium silently raises your blood pressure, stiffens arteries, and forces your heart to work harder. High blood pressure is the #1 leading cause of stroke in people over 60. In fact, the Framingham Heart Study found that even slightly elevated blood pressure can double the risk of stroke over time. It's like turning up the water pressure in an old pipe. It eventually bursts. What you can do instead. You don't have to cut salt completely, but you do need to read the labels. Look for sodium content, especially in canned soups, cold cuts, cheese, bread, salad dressings, and frozen meals. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day for people over 60. That's less than 2/3 of a teaspoon. Choose low-sodium versions and season food with herbs, garlic, or lemon instead of salt. Don't be fooled by sea salt or pink salt. They still raise blood pressure. Remember, your heart and brain don't care how fancy the salt is. They just want balance. You might not taste the danger, but your blood pressure does. And over time, it can build into something life-changing. 3. Not drinking enough water throughout the day. Most people think of dehydration as a summer problem, but for seniors, dehydration is a year-round risk and one that's often overlooked. I once spoke with Elaine, 72, after a community health class. She said, "I'd never feel thirsty. I drink when I remember." And like so many others, she didn't realize that as we age, our sense of thirst fades. That means by the time you feel thirsty, you're already mildly dehydrated. But what does this have to do with stroke? When your body is low on fluids, your blood becomes thicker and stickier. This makes it harder for the heart to pump blood through the vessels. And the thicker the blood, the higher the chance of clotting. If that clot travels to your brain, you already know the answer: a stroke. A study published in Neurology found that people who were dehydrated at the time of their stroke were twice as likely to suffer long-term brain damage or not survive at all. What you can do instead. You don't need to guzzle gallons of water, just make it a habit to sip throughout the day. A good goal for most seniors is 6 to 8 glasses of water daily, more if you're active or it's hot outside. Don't wait until you're thirsty. Set reminders, keep a water bottle near your favorite chair, and flavor your water with lemon or cucumber if plain water is hard to enjoy. Remember, your blood needs water to flow freely and carry oxygen to your brain. A few small sips today could protect your independence tomorrow. Now that you understand the hidden dangers of dehydration, let's move on to another surprising habit that could be silently raising your stroke risk, one that most people overlook every single day. 4. Sleeping less than 6 hours a night. We often think of sleep as just rest, but for your brain, sleep is repair time. I had a neighbor once, George, in his mid-60s, always smiling and always helping out. But there was one thing he brushed off. "I've never needed much sleep," he'd say. 5 hours is enough for me." But over the years, his energy faded. He became forgetful, a little shaky, and then one morning, he didn't wake up the same way. George had suffered a stroke while he was asleep. Why is sleep so important? Sleep is when your brain clears waste, reduces inflammation, and balances blood pressure. According to a major study published in the European Heart Journal, Adults over 60 who slept less than 6 hours per night had a 27% higher risk of stroke compared to those who slept 7 to 8 hours. And it's not just about how long you sleep, it's also the quality. Poor, broken sleep can lead to higher nighttime blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, and increased stress hormones, all of which put your brain at greater risk. What you can do instead. If sleep has become difficult with age, you're not alone, but there are gentle ways to support better rest. Stick to a sleep schedule, even on weekends. Avoid screens an hour before bed, keep your bedroom dark and cool, and try a cup of chamomile tea or a light stretch before bed. If you wake up often or snore heavily, talk to your doctor about sleep apnea, which is a serious risk factor for stroke.
5. Drinking too much caffeine throughout the day. For many people, it starts as a simple comfort, a hot cup of coffee in the morning, maybe another one mid-morning, and then by 3 p.m., you're feeling sluggish again, so you reach for a soda or another cup of coffee. It feels like a harmless pick-me-up, but for older adults, too much caffeine can quietly strain the heart and brain. I remember Mary, 71 years old, a warm and active woman who always had a mug in her hand. "Coffee is the only thing keeping me sharp," she used to say with a smile. But over time, her blood pressure started to creep up. Her hands shook more, and she started feeling lightheaded after climbing stairs. One day, she fainted in the kitchen. A small clot had formed and reached her brain, causing a minor stroke. So, why is caffeine dangerous? Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition shows that more than 300 milligrams of caffeine per day, about 2 to 3 cups of brewed coffee, can cause a short-term spike in blood pressure, especially in people who aren't used to high doses. While 1 cup of coffee might be fine, multiple cups throughout the day, plus soda or tea, can lead to overstimulation of the nervous system. For seniors, this can result in arrhythmia, increased heart rate, and a higher stroke risk. What's more, caffeine can interfere with sleep, and as we've discussed, poor sleep is a significant stroke risk factor. What you can do instead? You don't have to give up coffee entirely, but try limiting yourself to 1 or 2 cups in the morning and avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. Opt for decaf or herbal teas in the afternoon and stay hydrated with water or warm lemon water. Remember, caffeine isn't just in coffee, it's also in soda, iced tea, energy drinks, and even some medications. Caffeine may seem like a friend, but too much can quietly stress your system. After 60, your brain deserves peace, not pressure. 6. Smoking, even just a little. By now, most people know smoking is dangerous, but here's something I often hear from seniors. "I quit years ago, but I still have 1 or 2 now and then," or "I don't smoke a pack a day, just a few when I'm stressed." The truth is, when it comes to stroke, even just a few cigarettes can be enough to cause serious damage. I remember Thomas, 70 years old, a retired firefighter. He hadn't smoked regularly in over a decade, but once in a while, after dinner at family gatherings, he'd light one up. "1 cigarette won't kill me," he'd joke. But one day, it almost did. A stroke hit him suddenly, paralyzing half of his body. The doctor said his arteries were brittle and narrowed, and just 1 more hit of nicotine was enough to tip the scale. According to the CDC, smoking doubles the risk of stroke compared to non-smokers. What many people don't realize is that after 60, your blood vessels become more fragile. Nicotine causes them to tighten. Carbon monoxide damages the lining, and the chemicals in cigarettes make your blood more likely to clot. Even low-level smoking, as little as 1 cigarette a day, has been linked to stroke and heart disease. What you can do instead? If you've already quit, congratulations. If you're still trying to quit, don't give up. Reach out for support. Talk to your doctor about medications or patches, or join a senior quit smoking group. Every cigarette you don't smoke is a gift to your brain, and it's never too late to heal. According to the American Heart Association, your stroke risk begins to drop just weeks after quitting and continues improving year after year. Conclusion. So, as you can see, stroke risk doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's built up over time, one small habit at a time. But the good news is, you have the power to change it. By making simple, mindful adjustments today, you can protect your brain, your heart, and your future. It's never too late to start. Remember, you don't have to overhaul your life all at once. Small steps can lead to big changes. Stand up more, hydrate, sleep better, and choose healthier foods. Your independence and vitality are worth it. Don't wait. Take action now for a healthier tomorrow. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more tips on living a long and healthy life. And don't forget to check out our next video on brain-boosting foods that every senior should eat. Until then, take care of yourself and your future.